I just kind of wanted to start out introducing a little bit, just like what is an archive, because I think sometimes people are like, I don't really know what that is. So an archive is a place where people can go to gather firsthand facts, data, and evidence from letters, reports, notes, memos, photographs, and other primary sources. So it differs from a library, which a library is the one that houses like mass-produced materials meant for circulation. Archives, on the other hand, they're the ones that preserve a unique, unpublished, and often one-of-a-kind material. So now when I say that, we, today, the ones that you're going to be hearing from, we represent New Thought Archives. So for us, it's more than just like, yeah, it's an archive. It's a sacred caretaking. We're entrusted with these records from each of our organizations, and we preserve them, and we share these records, and we keep the past alive and accessible. So that's kind of what we're doing. And for us, it's not just a job, it's more than that. This is a sacred responsibility that we have. We're entrusted with these, and it is a calling for us to care for these records. So we're honored to come here today and to talk about some of the things we have. So I really wanted to do kind of what I have today is a little bit of a show and tell for you. So you're going to quickly remember like some of these things that maybe you haven't seen in a long time, and some of these are really easy and some are going to get a little harder. So we've kind of got a presentation and I'll show you one at a time, and if you know what it is, you just tell me what it is. So I've got it, I can hold it up, but it's also on the screen. So if you know what it is, just tell me, and then we're kind of go from there. So the first ones are getting easy and then they get harder. All right. Okay, we're ready for the first one. So what do we have? Who knows? Okay, see, DVD. All right. So DVD is 1997. So archives tend to have these. These are a little easier format to deal with because they're newer, but we keep getting older. All right. Our next one. Not cassettes, are a little smaller. Yep, I heard it. Camcorder. Yep, these are camcorders. So there's a whole bunch of different varieties of these. First ones came on about 1995, some newer versions. So different ones that you could use in camcorders, and we get lots of different ones the further back you go of those, but these are the little mini ones. All right, the next one. CDs, those are pretty easy to identify. And that's when you start feeling a little bit old because, oh, she went faster than me. Yep. VHS, yep. Is it going to, yeah, so 1976. So if you're like, oh, I remember when those came out, you just dated yourself, right? All right, our next one. They're bigger. Yes, a beta. So again, these weren't very popular for a long time. They came out, but again, VHS ended up being a more popular one, but 75, so around the same time as VHS. All right. See what our next one is. Oh. Cassettes. Okay, so cassettes have been around. What year was that? Gosh, they've been around forever, I feel like. 63. So actually one of the things, Unity started having a cassette of the month club, and we're putting out cassettes every single month from, I think it was the early 70s maybe, through like the 90s, early 2000s. So I was doing a little math, cassette math, in the archives the other day, and I kind of figured out how much a box holds and maybe how much a cabinet holds, and then I just kept writing it down, and I went to my computer and added it all up. I figured we have over 10,000 cassettes in Unity archives. This last year, we digitized 500. We have a long way to go. And there's definitely, and we've done some other things in the past, but I mean, at a rate of 500 a year, it's going to go really slow. So that's just the amount of just one type of thing that we have in the archive. It's a lot. All right. It does get a little harder. What's the next one? Okay. So this one I put up here because the golden age of radio was kind of an important part of Unity. So it began in the 1920s and lasted through the 1950s, which at that point then TV started taking over as the main entertainment source and in homes. So a little bit of history about Unity. In the early days, so in the 1920s, WOQ was the radio station. It was the very first radio station in the Kansas City area. Western Radio Company started broadcasting in 1922, and then 2 years later, Unity purchased that from them, and they started broadcasting in 1924. So that picture that was, oh, you got to go back, sorry. Oh. So that picture that's up there is the radio tower that they put on top of the building in Kansas City at their headquarters. That just amazes me that they put that up there. So they had that radio station until 1934, and then they had to discontinue it because they lost that frequency when they were doing a lot of changes with radio. But they also at that time found out that it was more economical for them and also could spread the Unity message further if they broadcast on radio stations. Okay, so here's where these start getting a little harder, but these have to do, I'll give you a hint, the next couple have to do with radio. So, let's see. Anybody know what this thing is? Oh, I heard somebody. Yeah, and they had some other names, but yes, this one was, it's a broadcast, they called it like for short, they just called them carts. So it looks like an 8-track tape, similar, but the main purpose of these was for radio broadcasting. So Unity created these. This particular one, it's just not even labeled this one, but it's with a set, so we kind of know what is on them. Unity had a public service announcement that they put on the radio that was called The Word from Unity. So it was, they would take the concept of the daily word, take a word. They used celebrities to tell them about this word. So these were the ones that they created for radio stations, and they sent those out. So that way they could play them over the radio. They were popular from about 1954 to about 1999. So we have a bunch of these in our collection. So in our next phase, we're going to be digitizing some of these. All right. Okay, next one. Did it go? All right. Okay. That's it doesn't fit very well. What is this? Not a phonograph. Okay, yep, see, there's our expert back there. Transcription disc. So the one that I have up there, actually, when I first started working at Unity, we have a radio program, and we have the transcripts, like the printed versions of all these radio programs we did. And so they went out to all the radio stations all over the country, and they would, a local minister, or the person on the radio would read the script over the radio. There was like a little song with it. It was about 15 minutes long. When I first started in the archives about 5 years ago, that was always a question I got, and they said, do you have any of those recordings? And my answer was always the same. No, it was live radio. We don't have any recordings of it. And then a couple years into my job as archivist, somebody gave us this great donation. They found 18 of these, and it was from a minister in Toledo, Ohio, that broadcast on the radio. And the person that donated these not only donated these transcription discs, but they also donated money for us so that we could have these digitized, and we added them to our digital archive, which is online. So now when people come in, I'm like, yes, to listen to these, all you have to do is go onto our website, and you can click on it and listen to it. One of the fun things about this one I like that I did not know is, so these can be like a regular record where you put the needle on it and you play it, but they also, so one side, I always forget which one, it's marked, So sometimes it goes from in to out or out to in. So sometimes the needle starts here and works its way out, and then they would flip them over so it would play the other way. So that's kind of a fun thing about these. But the other thing that I always like to point out, like that one up there, the reason we want to digitize these is because they are not indestructible. These things will happen to them, and some of them, when we got these, they had some, I don't know what it was on them, stuff on them that accumulates, and they were able to clean those. But when you have things like that where it gets chips in that actual stuff on there, then you're going to start losing the material that's on there. So that's why it's so important to digitize some of these things. And then you also have costs, because not only if you want to keep these, the digitizing costs, but then you also want to keep them in, acid-free sleeves and keep them in areas where they're not going to have heat or anything else. So that's kind of a fun one. All right, what's our next one? So yeah, we're back to the 20s already. All right, anybody recognize that? Yeah, they're reel-to-reel, but these ones are specifically audio. So there's all kinds. I did not realize how long those had been around either, but since the 20s. And again, we have a ton of these in our archive from various things. Okay, next one. All right, it has on it what it is. Yeah. So, these are a little bit unique too. They were advertised as, this one is, this is one we have an extra of, and this one's a little bit damaged. You can't really see it from there, it's kind of warped. But they advertised them that they were flexible and would not break. This one is probably 100 years old, and they're still in pretty good condition despite the fact that it's warped. But we have digitized many of them. We found some others as well. The fun thing is they came in all shapes, or not shapes, sizes and colors. So I don't know if you can tell, but that one's green, that one's blue. But we have some red ones. They came in different colors. So actually, the first person that created these, it was kind of he was really good at creating something, but not so good at marketing. But Charles Fillmore saw the potential in him, gave him space in the studio that they had in Kansas City, Missouri, at their headquarters, and he produced a whole line of these flexo discs for Unity. So back in the 1920s, they were sending out, like one of the very first ones was the voice of Charles Fillmore recorded, and they would send them out on a subscription basis, just like you would a magazine. So he created these for probably, the early ones were 20s, and then he went off to California, but it kind of failed. So the biggest selection of these that were created were for Unity, and he created a whole series. So those are kind of a fun little piece of history, and you're look like they could crack. All right, I think we've got a couple more. I heard it. Yes, a wire, and it really literally is a wire. And these recordings started, I did not realize they were that old, 1898. And again, our archive does not have anything that old, but they definitely were popular in the 1940s around World War II. My kids claim to fame that they used to watch Hogan's Heroes once in a while, and if you remember, there was an episode where they hid it in a sewing machine and made a recording, and so they did use those during World War II. But we have a few of these, not a lot. The downside to these is that they are very easy to unravel or break, but the size of them was nice that you could, this one, stick in the mail, do whatever you needed to, and very compact. So, all right. We're back into the 1800s. Next one. In here. Yeah, so the motion picture film. So this is also a reel, but it's not audio recordings, it's actually movies on it. So the early ones, just movies. I did not realize they went back, like the earliest one they found was 1889, and they've definitely, the earliest one that I know of that Unity has is 1926, so 100 years old. So we've got one that goes back that far. And there's one last one that I didn't even think of. Anybody know what that is? Yes. Yeah, for a player piano. And I never thought of that as like an audio thing, but it really does. I mean, it has a recording on it, and those go back to 1883. And we do have some in our archive. This one is probably from the 1980s, but we did have some, and I don't know which ones we still have. We had a clubhouse, and they had a player piano back in the 1920s through about 1980. So we have a whole collection of these in our archives as well. Not that we will probably ever digitize them, but you could probably put it still on a player piano and it would play. So that's kind of my show and tell. I put up here, I think the next one, there is a QR code. I just wanted to tell you real quick about our digital archive that we've been working on for the last few years. We've added a lot of our content to there. Still, like I said, way more to add to it. But I do have a bookmark up there. You can take a picture of the QR code and go to it and kind of see what we've been working on. And that I hope that you've enjoyed seeing some of these obsolete, maybe some of them you remember, but just some fun audio visual, and just to give you an idea of the types of things that we have in the Unity archives.
Okay, so the next set of archives we're going to discuss are the Universal Foundation for Better Living archives. And it's really appropriate that we would follow Unity because Johnny's journey in the New Thought movement began with Unity. And so a lot of her Unity material in terms of following her first steps, 1952, 53, up until 1974 when she established the Universal Foundation for Better Living, we would get that information from the Unity archives or from information that she would have in her possession, et cetera, et cetera. Her home church, Christ Universal Temple in Chicago, would be the owners of her personal materials. We have some. We are the foundation that she established, and so we share. And so I'm going to share with you. We are the younger arm of New Thought. On June 14th, we'll be 52 years young. But we want to start. As president, I want us to start this process so that we don't lose the history. So the portrait here of Johnny is one that I took of the portrait that hangs in Morehouse College in the Martin Luther King Chapel in Atlanta, Georgia, of her. I remember when it was hung back in 2001. So she's one of the earlier members into that great hall of scholars and all kinds of people all over the world. So we are preserving UFBL's history and telling our story. Next slide, please. So I talked about June 14th being the anniversary, so that's coming up for us. There's an urgency to learn as much as possible about the archival process in order to preserve media and memorabilia so that the history of UFBL could be told and displayed for generations to come. And so it's just really great. And what you hear here today is a collaborative effort. We meet like every 2 months. If we're coming up on a presentation, we meet every month, sometimes twice a month, and we share resources. Because Unity has been doing this for a long time. A long time. When you walk in their archives, you'll see, oh my gosh. So why try and recreate the wheel? I have no idea what we're doing, but I can sure enough go to Jolene and say, Jolene, I'm looking for this. I'm trying to find this. So if you saw my presentation at the World Parliament of Religions on Johnny Coleman, we all presented on our founders. That material, a lot of it I found in the Unity archives with Jolene and her staff's help. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you. So this is a collaborative effort between all of the New Thought organizations, we've created an environment to learn from one another so that we can preserve these documents, the media, the memorabilia, before it disintegrates, before it fades and rusts and becomes of little use in telling the organization's story. Next slide, please. Preserving documents. So I'm just going to give you a sample of what we found. The first step in the archival process, according to the archivist for the United States of America at that time. I had a meeting with her, all of our churches did about maybe 4 years ago. And she said the first thing you do is you've got to find out what's your retention document policy. You need a retention document policy. And this is important for your local church because there are things that happen in your local church that will then feed up to the larger organization. Make sense? And so we started with, okay, who has Founders Day programs? And so the latest one I have right now is 1988, and I have samples of all those years with me today. And you can see those up here. And they've changed through the years, as you can see, different colors, different whatever. I don't have time to show you all of that. Next slide. And these are other copies here. Next slide. Publications. Our daily reader is the Daily Inspiration for Better Living. In 1974, when Dr. Coleman and her team established Universal Foundation for Better Living, she says we must have a daily reader, just like in Unity we had the Daily Word. So we have the Daily Inspiration for Better Living. Board member, Reverend Allison Harrell, was charged with beginning that publication, so he is credited as our distinguished first writer. I have pictures of him. That's important too. And then his wife succeeded him when he made his transition. And then the Reverend Tarnisha Ferguson Rowan, who was here earlier today, she then became the editor. And so now we are re-examining all of that so that we can have the best publication possible. So we're in shop now, and so a lot of that work falls on me right now, just for now. And so we have samples for you. The butterfly one up there is the May-June edition. Tarnisha was great because she took us to a bi-monthly publication. So we only publish 6 times a year, just like Unity does. Next slide. And I have samples up here you could look at as well. And then there are pamphlets. So just like there are pamphlets on different topics, Allison Harrell, who started, Reverend Allison, also began writing along with other ministers small pamphlets that would help people. Prosperity, healing, how to get along with others, how big is your God, the Beatitudes, all of these little pamphlets. And so there are tons of them. And so many times what happens is people will give them to us. And so we're really grateful for that. These I retrieved from the estate of Reverend Helen Carey. She left me all of her New Thought stuff. And I know why she did, because she knew I would preserve it. Okay? All right. Let's go to next slide, please. Other publications. The Founder's Book, It Works If You Work It, is now on Kindle as well, so that it's not just a physical book. The youth book, Explore Your 12 Gifts from God. We have excerpts from her book here. We need to preserve whatever the founder wrote, the presidents, and other ministers within the movement. These texts evidence the New Thought teachings espoused by UFBL, and they matter. Next slide, please. Founder's book, Open Your Mind and Be Healed. The dedication is written by Johnny's good friend. They called each other Buddy, and that's Della Reese of Touched by an Angel fame. They're very good, they're buddies. And then, so I just took a picture of the bookstore with some of the titles, and of course, the popular book by the president who succeeded Johnny, the Reverend Dr. Mary Tumpkin, who was my spiritual teacher and mentor. And I love her book, Before You Pray, Forgive, because I think it's the most powerful book on forgiveness I've ever read. And I've read a ton of books on forgiveness. And it's to the point, simple, people love it. You don't have to read 100 pages to get to it. And she just tells you like it is. It's like that Martha Creek, get at it. You know, just do it. Myrtle Fillmore statement. Next slide, please. I even have the memorial program for Johnny. I have the memorial program for Helen Carey. And so I keep these things. So as president, I'm in my third term as president of UFBL. And I keep a notebook. And so every time I do something, like even here, I will take the INTA program, I'll have at least 2 copies, and what I'll do is I file them away. And so when it's time to make my report to my board, I just go to my notebook, and I can say, okay, what have I done for the last 6 months? And I just go through that, because, who remembers all this stuff, right? So we've got that. So we've got the memorial program. So I'm saying, what about handwritten sermons? Johnny wrote out her sermons. What about the Johnny doll? The fundraisers she would have, and she always had creative stuff. What about the Kachina doll that INTA awarded our past president, Dr. Mary Tumpkin, and Blaine Mays presented it to her. Each doll represented something about the one receiving the award. It wasn't just a doll. What about photographs? Lord, Johnny got 1 million photographs. So you have to have a photograph party to say, who are the people in the photograph? What about clergy robes and academic regalia? So next slide, please. So I just started to just put some of that stuff up. That's one sample of a Johnny doll. I have another one where she's in a blue dress. I have another one, she's in a red and white dress. I have another one, she's in a little green dress. So could you go back, please? Could you go back? Johnny doll, go back. Then her 40th anniversary in ministry, this plate was created. You know those plates that have a stand? That's that. And that's a Kachina doll here. Reverend Mary received one of those. And I have that. It's home in my closet. Next slide. What about the regalia? Digitizing, which is what Jolene spoke about, documents, papers. What about the cassettes, the VHS tapes, the reel-to-reel? She had a television program. She had a radio program. What about the CDs, the phonograph, the albums, the photos, the transfer to the new media? What about temperature control storage? All this costs, the cost of warehousing, preserving clothes, robes, etc. Next page, that's Dr. Helen Carey and the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. Dr. Johnny Coleman, when she made her transition and they were going through her things, I said to Christ Universal Temple, make sure you preserve this dress. This is important, okay? And so they have this dress. This is Helen Carey and I at the 2015 POT when she installed me as president. I have this dress in my closet. That's Dr. Johnny Coleman, Dr. Barbara King, a photograph. And then Reverend Helen Carey, who was executive assistant to Dr. Johnny, who passed a couple of years ago. So you have that. Keep going, please. Preserving magazines and news articles. Johnny stayed in the paper. We must not forget the many photographs. So we have this here. It was in the Chicago Courier talking about social change and practical Christianity. Johnny says, during this period of great social change, many who feel that the old-time religion is not good enough for them are seeking a new way to cope with present-day living. We feel that our message of practical Christianity can become the new way for many who do not know the teachings of practical Christianity. And I have this like on a metal, like a street sign kind of metal thing. I don't know how I got it, but I think I got it from Helen again. Next page. Yeah, why not, huh? She was on the cover when she built the first mega church in Chicago. So this is a copy of the magazine cover. I was talking somewhere once, someone walked up to me and just handed it to me. Isn't that great? Next page, please. This is Dr. Johnny Coleman, same doing a ribbon cutting ceremony. Then Mayor Harold Washington, Dr. Johnny Coleman, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. They were there for the ribbon cutting to the church. Next, this is Detective Ranthel, Chicago Police Department. He's best known in history for, remember when the nurses were murdered in the Chicago area? He is the one that spoke with the person who had seen someone, got a description. So he would have drawn that description and they eventually caught the guy. That's this guy. What he did for Johnny is he created the logo. He created the logo for UFBL. So, and I've got his picture, and now his niece has been working in Chicago, and she never knew that her uncle had done this. And so she discovered it before Johnny died, and they spoke about it, and then we brought her on a television interview to talk about her uncle. So we're really grateful to him. Next slide. We were all here as UFBL back in 2016 because there's a plaque dedicated to Dr. Coleman in the Rose Garden. And I understand it will be the only plaque in that Rose Garden. There's a story behind that. I don't know what it is. But anyway, we're also gathered here. They're the 12 power walkway around this building. And we laid 2 stones, one for Dr. Mary Tumpkin, our prior president, our immediate past president, Dr. Johnny Coleman. Another photograph, Dr. Johnny and Reverend Ike. They were very good friends. Next slide. And that's him again. I couldn't get this off. It erased the whole slide, so I had to left. This is a cassette tape. We have a ton of those. This was Lola Falana speaking at Christ Universal Temple. Some of everybody has spoken at that church. And Lola is a famed dancer, celebrity, and she came down with some kind of a condition. And once she had recovered and come through, she came to the church to talk about her healing. And so this is this. Helen Carey, maybe a year before she died, we celebrated her birthday. This was during COVID, that's why she's got that on. And we invited, UFBL invited everybody to send her a card. And so they sent me pictures of her reading her cards. And I now have all those cards because, you know, they're part of her estate. I have all those cards, so keep going. I'm almost there. Talking about albums. Johnny was very entrepreneurial. She produced this album here in the 80s featuring Della Reese and her choir. The director was Bob Mays. Johnny heard him in a Broadway production. He was playing and everything. She just walked up to him and hired him. And he's brilliant, did a lot of the songs on commercials on television. And then Franklin Lett is Della's husband, Della Reese Lett. I was with him 2 weeks ago in LA, and he is going well, and he has a lot of information because he worked on the production end of like her television programs and stuff like that. So I get information from him as well. Next slide. Ordinations and graduations. This was last year at Christ Universal Temple, the church Johnny founded. Next slide. This is at Miami Church. A couple years ago. This is our first provost and academic dean of the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary, the Reverend Ann Price. She made her transition last year. Reverend Hazel, Reverend Charles is the senior minister, succeeding the Reverend Mary Tumpkin. That's graduation there. This is graduation about 3 or 4 years ago at the church in Los Angeles, licensing of a minister. He was actually ordained a couple of Sundays ago. John Downey. And this is a previously ordained clergy who came over to UFBL, and he has a church in Chicago, the Reverend Robert Hubbard. So he was ordained last year. Yeah, next slide. Tanisha, who was in the room earlier, being ordained last year. This is a licensing of teachers in Guyana, South America. And this is in Jamaica. This was licensing of teachers a few years back. Next slide. And we're grateful to just start the journey. So these are some of the things we've been able to put together, and I thank you for your attention. Believe it or not, this is November 22nd, 1995, when I was ordained in Miami, Florida. I found this. I was helping my dad with something, saying, Dad, I don't have any pictures of my ordination. None. So this is the first public showing that I've shared. I thought I would end with that. So it was Johnny, Leon Blair, and Dr. Mary Tumpkin and myself. And so that's UFBL for now. And I'm going to stop. Okay? You're good? So I've got some stuff up here for you to see. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much, Dr. Sheila. That was amazing. My goodness. All righty. We are on a very good roll. Thank you so much. I mean, isn't this fun? Isn't history fun? Yes, those words go together. My goodness. And this is our spiritual history, and so it's just an honor to be here. Alrighty. So anyway, I'm Reverend Kathy Mastriani. I'm the Executive Director of the Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation. And we have a little team. We call it our Missouri team, who will be presenting today. And so we're going to start off with this first slide. Because I just feel that I love how Dr. Tim prayed us in. You know, he really evoked the presence of spirit. And to me, our space, even though we have lots of show and tells, it's our space where you can really feel the essence of history. You can feel all those who have gone before us, you know, the Fillmores, because it's in Fillmore Hall, and it was very intentionally filled with spirit. We intentionally prayed it in as we moved everything from Golden, Colorado to Unity Village, Missouri. You can feel the essence of Dr. Ernest Holmes and his energy. And so to me, the space is another treasure of our archives. And so I just so encourage each one of you to come visit all of our archives, and you'll get a prize too. So we like prizes. And I just want some clarifying, because a lot of people say, oh, it's the Ernest Holmes Archives or it's Centers for Spiritual Living Archives. Yes, and it's actually the Science of Mind Archives, because it's very inclusive, because our history is there, but we are creating history right here and right now today. And so for my next trick, I want to show you something kind of fun. And we're just going to trust in the technology gods. So this is how the archives gets a treasure. How do we get a treasure? And so this one starts with our friend Reverend Doug LeBeau, who is on our board of directors. And he was also a former spiritual leader at High Desert Center for Spiritual Living. So this is a FaceTime, we love technology, that I got from Reverend Doug.
I found it. Take a look. I don't know if I can reverse my camera on this, but I found a box. And in this box is some tapes. This is stuff that was from my church, I think. Some tapes and some other tapes. Wait. I think there are some albums under here. Yes. And also, there's another signed Ernest Holmes book. I found it. Come and see me.
Isn't that fun? So what he found is there's this album that says Ernest Holmes 1930s, recorded by Harvey R. Hall. And we believe this is the earliest recording we have of Dr. Holmes. And so we asked him about it, and so he found it, and so he told us about it. And so we're going to show you what has to happen next to it. So JT and I drove up to Michigan to see my family. We stopped by Reverend Doug's house, and we picked up this historic box. Next slide. And then from there, we brought it to Unity Village, and then we were on our way to CSL Reno for the CSL convention, and we dropped it off in Arvada, Colorado, to our friend Park Peters, who is the one who digitizes all these things. And it was kind of funny, because if you can't see it, but if you look really close, it says delivery confirmation. So this is like our Amazon delivery confirmation picture that you would get. Anyway, so we love Park. And so we drove off to Reno, and then we came back, and we picked up the digitized slide. Next slide. And so you're going to be the first people to hear this recording from 1930 of Dr. Ernest Holmes.
Let us draw good into our experience by meditating upon the idea of abundance. I reflect upon the limited source from which I draw good. God is the source of good and of my good. I withdraw my attention from the world of effect and limitation and dwell on the realm of cause, which is limited. I enlarge my mental concept. I believe that mine. I accept my daily bread, which is from heaven. Today unlimited blessings are showered upon me. All that I can possibly need today is given to me. Always I shall be supplied with every good thing. That which I desire falls into my experience as daily manna from heaven. Today I realize my birthright of plenty. I consciously accept the abundance which is mine. My concept is one of abundance, and I set no limitation whatsoever upon God, and God sets no limitation upon me. All channels are open to me, and all channels bring richness and supply to me. I know and expect that this bounty which is God's is mine, and is mine fullness today. I am surrounded by beauty, by friendship, by love, and by human companionship. From every direction in which I turn, my good comes forth to meet me. I meet God, the living Spirit Almighty, at every turn in the road.
Oh, there you go. So it's my pleasure to introduce Britt Burns. He is our archivist librarian, and I just can't tell you how important it is to have an archivist on board like Jolene is for Unity Archives, like the good work that Sheila's doing in her team. But, you know, she would love to have an archivist, I bet, you bet. And so we're really grateful because, or else we're just kind of an expensive storage unit. You know, if things are just stored and dusty, we need someone who knows what the heck they're doing and to preserve it. So I'm grateful to introduce Britt Burns.
Let us draw good into our experience by meditating upon the idea.
Hi. Oh, okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. Oh, is this working? Okay. Oh. Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Britt, the archivist librarian at the Science of Mind Archive and Library Foundation. A lot of what I do in my position is that I try to make things, what we have in our archive, more discoverable to the public and also people that are looking online through our website. So a big part of what I do is that I catalog records in a consistent manner, both in physical terms, like they will be cataloged as consistently as possible within the containers, but also moving into the current times, they're cataloged online in a consistent way so people can more easily find them, because that's a huge part of what I'm trying to do is make our materials and our rare items around Ernest Holmes and other leaders more accessible and findable. And a key part to this is adding the correct metadata because, well, metadata is just simply like ways of describing things, the correct search terms that you need. We all use metadata every day, whether we know it or not, but it's very, very important for what I do because if I don't put in the proper metadata, people are simply going to not find what they're looking for when they're searching. This is one of our museum items. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Betty. Thank you. This item up here, it's one of our museum items that I photographed. I would like to get a better photo eventually, but this is this was Ernest Holmes' work desk. This is one of his work desks. This is one of my favorite items that I like to show people in our museum because, well, first of all, it's made up of almost entirely wood, which is nice. It just has a very lived-in feel to it, and you can almost feel Ernest's energy still on this desk when I walk by it. And I also spend a lot of time at a desk, so I like desks in general, but this is just one of my favorite items to show people as they come to our archive. Okay. And another part of what I do is I photograph our items. I try to show them the best that I can online. Like this is a very famous pencil portrait of Ernest Holmes. that we actually have hanging in Hazel's corner, his wife's corner. It's been featured in a couple of different publications and books, so other people have seen it, but it's very nice to be able to see it both in person and also online like this. And our museum is gradually making, as I already mentioned, we're gradually putting things online, but we also want to encourage people to come see them in person too, as much as possible. Next slide, please. Thank you, Betty. This, in addition to the physical and photographed items, I'm also trying to scan as many items as I can to include them in our digital database online. This right here is a scan of a DVD that was produced in 2017, but not a lot of people have actually seen this film yet. So we're actually going to have a special screening of this on June 6th, and it'll be available online so people can watch it. That's the correct date, right? Oh, I'm sorry, June 4th. I'm so sorry, June 4th. And your support for our archives goes into all these things I mentioned so far in helping us digitize, preserve, and make things more available online. And one more thing I want to focus on is that we also have a large collection of audio materials, both with video, sound recordings, and many of these recordings are also in magnetic tapes, and these are going to eventually deteriorate to the point that they're not going to be, we're not going to be able to digitize them, we're not going to be able to save them. So we are hoping eventually to set up an audio digitization studio, which we're currently working on that right now. So your support for our archives will also go towards this project, which is going to be a pretty significant project in our archive going forward. And these also have the ability, these recordings have the ability to create more products that we can offer online that people can download. So this is another huge benefit for everyone, including our archive. And with that, I would like to introduce Executive Administrative Assistant Betty Cook.
You're really tall. I'm Betty Cook. I'm a practitioner and the newest addition to the team, the Missouri team. And it's a great pleasure to be able to work in a beautiful place like Unity Village. So one of the things that I found in the archives that really excited me, and you have a couple of them up there, but they're here in the Ernest Holmes scrapbook. It's got his initials there in the corner. What I did not know is that during the 40s and 50s, he wrote for and they produced a line of greeting cards and has his poetry in them. And so that's what we have here in this book. And this is an example of how we get things. We often get them in kind of this shape. And also that the glue that was used to put them in here does degrade over time. So some of the things that we have, photographs and others, get lost or get damaged because of the glue or the things that we use to preserve them. So part of our job as archives is to take really unusual things like this and preserve them as well. But this is that joy of discovery when I didn't know he was a poet. I didn't know these even existed. And there are many of them that are quite beautiful. It's a great feeling to come into the archive and discover things there that you did not know about him or that were even a part of Science of Mind. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Reverend Kathy.
I thank you, Betty. And I can't tell you how wonderful it is to have help. It's just wonderful to have Betty and Britt, and we just have a wonderful team, and we're growing volunteers, and we have a lot of work to do, and I think that's what I'm going to speak to next. So this is really stepping back, big picture. This is what our board of directors is up to and doing. This is our strategic plan. So we're working on a 5-year strategic plan for our archives. And there's just so many elements of it. I mean, just the very first one is collection management and preservation. But I want you to feel what it takes to run an organization. We have leadership governance, fundraising and legacy building, marketing and communications. So you folks even know that we have this stuff to look at. Community engagement, technology and innovation. Hasn't technology come a long way? And Jolene has expertly shared that. But AI, right? I mean, there's just so much happening with AI nowadays. Program development and utilization. How cool to have retreats here at Unity Village where people can really deepen and steep into the history. Strategic partnerships and collaboration. I think we're modeling that pretty good right now. Volunteer and staff development and global partnerships and innovations. We really want things translated and available worldwide. Next slide. And we encourage people to be our friends because you can never have too many friends. And so we have a Friends of the Archives program. And gosh, if it touches your heart, we invite you to join. We're doing lots of fun things. It's $16 a month or $189 a year right now. But like that movie that Britt talked about, we have some free presentations when you're a friend. And so we just encourage people to support us in this way and even greater ways because we got a lot of work to do. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, check out our newsletter, or volunteer remotely or in person. And so we're grateful. Thank you. Our website is really going to be your best friend. And I have one more little thing. So we're going to transition to our friends at INTA Addington Archives. Dr. Marilyn Leo is the founder of the Science of Mind Archives. And she received this beautiful Torchbearers Award from INTA. And so we're just so grateful. She's 91 years old, still very active with our archives, and she has a very heartfelt message for INTA.
Thank you so much for the introduction. This award was given to me a couple of years ago at an International New Thought Alliance Congress, which, by the way, is a wonderful organization. And it's one of my cherished awards. The Jack Addington Archives is celebrating many years of collections, and I know they will be very successful in maintaining and preserving these special artifacts in their new home. I join with many others to welcome you to Unity Village. It is the perfect location for you to share the long history of INTA. I'm very happy that the Science of Mind Archives and now the Jack Addington Archives has relocated to join the Unity Archives in one location, Unity Village. We are one.
Nice. And I'd love to introduce Mr. J.T. Thurman, who is the director of the INTA Addington Archives, but he's also my husband.
Yeah, somebody's got to keep me in line. I'm going to turn this up a little bit so that you can hear me when I talk. I am JT. I am the Director Archivist of the INTA Addington Archives and Research Center. You'll notice on this very first slide, most of, if not all of you, recognize that. That is one of our signature pieces in the archive. That stained glass window was donated to the archives in 1991 by the Abundant Living Foundation, and we literally moved that from Mesa, Arizona to here. It got here in one piece. We were so grateful. And so you'll get to see it today if you come to the grand opening, which I'm sure you will, and you'll get to see it in all of its glory. Next slide, please. How we began. Around 1955, Raymond Charles Barker had a collection of New Thought material, including a lot of INTA history. He was one of our former presidents. He had a good friend, Charles Braden, who was connected with the Methodist University. He was a Methodist minister. He was also a professor. And he was very interested in New Thought material, and he talked Raymond Charles Barker into moving his material to the Birdwell Library in Dallas at the Methodist College there. And so that's how we moved in 1955. We have moved 3 times since then, and we have grown a whole lot larger. And so next slide, please. This is what we look like today. As you can see here, we have a lot of materials, and I feel Jolene's heart because I know that we probably have at least 8,000 cassette tapes ourselves. We have a lot of audio-visual material. Probably 1/3 of our archive is made up of that. And there's probably over 50,000 pieces of items in here, but there's probably over 1 million items of talks, lectures, sermons, lessons. There's a lot of stuff, a whole lot of stuff. And we're just one archive. So you take that times 3 or 4, and you can tell how much material is sitting on this campus. There's a lot of history here. Next slide, please. This is just some of the stuff. And again, I just took some different little things. I'm not near as techie as some of these folks, but the very first one there on the left, you'll notice says New Thought News. That is from the National New Thought Alliance in 1912. Actually, that organization was made up of some metaphysical groups that came together in the late 1800s. 1908, they formed the National New Thought Alliance. The little green pamphlet there that you'll notice is actually the pamphlet from the conference that went on in England by Thomas Troard. He put that on in 1914. He invited National New Thought Alliance to come and join with him. They obviously hit it off because they made him an honorary president and they changed the name to International New Thought Alliance. The little white pamphlet there is our first Congress pamphlet, the very number 1. And so here we are at the 111th Congress. 111 years have gone by. So it's just kind of fun to have that. The picture on the right, I just am fascinated by this, and that's why it's there. This is from 1918. The thing that really caught my eye, and I've seen it in quite a bit of the material, early material of INTA, it's a list of the teachers and healers that are associated with INTA. And I love that because we are all teachers and healers. And I love that they had that listed and put there for people. Next slide, please. This right here is one of our treasures, and for some reason it's not showing the background picture on that slide. I don't know why. But there was actually, this is contained within a scrapbook that's about this thick. And this was donated to INTA by the International Metaphysical League. It contains a lot of material in it. Unfortunately, everything is glued into it, as one of our folks talked about with glue, and it's an archivist's nightmare. But fascinating book, and this is, I'm assuming this is probably one of the metaphysical groups that joined together to form National New Thought Alliance. And so if you flip to the next slide, this was in 1899 is when they formed this International Metaphysical League. This is the minutes of their meetings glued into this scrapbook, and the picture on the right is their very first meeting, and it was in February of 1899. And so basically we've got probably 140 years worth of material in our archives. So if you want to flip to the next slide. I thought these are in that scrapbook. The letter on the left is from Myrtle Fillmore in 1904, written to the Metaphysical League because they were going to speak at one of their conferences. The letter on the right was from Charles. It was written like a few days later, about a week later, again confirming their speaking engagements and making sure their dues were paid. I think they paid like $1 or something for their dues. And so fascinating stuff. But again, they're glued in. So please don't glue stuff into scrapbooks. I'm just telling you, please don't. But just beautiful. I mean, how fun to have this. Next one. This is the oldest magazine that I know of right now in the archive. It's from 1889. This Minister Savage that wrote this was from the Unity Church in Boston. This is the very first article written in this magazine. We have over 20,000 magazines in our archive. We represent about 400 different publications. Kathy and I discovered in the archives not too long ago one written by a Truth magazine in 1918 where Ernest Holmes donated, the Holmes brothers as they're referred to, donated their magazine, which was called The Uplift, to the Truth magazine. And so it became part of that in 1918. And, you know, Science of Mind handbook was what, 1927? 19, somewhere in there. So obviously the Holmes brothers were busy way before. So it's just the fun stuff that you find in the archives, and us being an international network of ministries and New Thought people, it's fun to find the connections from all of these folks and how they were involved with INTA in the early years, because everybody was basically. And so the next one, please. And again, I wish this showed the back picture. I had back pictures on these. This is from Yogananda, his group, Self-Realization. What's fun about this is that the back picture shows a whole shelf of books that were the lessons that he had printed and that he had made. The picture on the left is the Lord's Prayer that he wrote. And the picture on the right is the first page of the first lesson book. And the books are about this thick. And there's a whole shelf of them. So again, I tried to pick stuff that was a little unique. I mean, obviously we have some Emma Curtis Hopkins stuff that goes clear back to the beginning. We have a ledger that was written off of Quimby that someone that attended their lectures and journaled it. And so we have a lot of really fun, cool stuff, but there's so much you couldn't even begin to show it. I mean, we have a lot. So I just wanted to highlight that for you, because I think Yogananda is kind of cool, and it's just fun to have something like that in the archive. Next picture, please. This is really what we're looking at, and someone else hit on this today too. I just really want you guys to understand how vital this is. If we don't get this material digitized, it's going to disintegrate into nothing, and we will lose it. And so that's one of the things we're focusing on. That picture is actually the INTA section, the Congresses. This is the earliest one I know about right now, which is 1965 Congresses forward. This is something we're going to be focusing on right away, is getting these things digitized and online. You think about a Congress, think about how many people have spoken at this Congress, and then take that times the number 111, take that times that. That's how many different people, the potential messages that are in all of these tapes and reels and all this stuff. So we really do want to get this out there. Next slide, please. This gives you a little better picture of our media. The ones there in the middle picture are actually Jack Addington's radio shows. They're on reels. We have a lot of, movies or television. We have a lot of audio, reels from all kinds of different speakers. We have a lot of cassettes. Like I said, over 8,000 of them. We have VHS. We have everything. And we need to get all this stuff digitized and preserved, because these tapes are deteriorating as we sit here. You think about it. Jolene pointed out that cassette tapes in 1963, my goodness, you realize that's over 60 years old. So now you have a cassette tape sitting there from the beginning of cassette. I know I can say that because I was born in 61. But, honestly, this stuff is, time gets by us and we don't realize it. Something done in the 70s, how old is that? It's 50 years old. This stuff's been sitting around, and it's just hurts my heart to see it just sitting there and not being digitized and preserved for future generations. The next picture here. This shows, the one on the left shows, that's all cassette tapes. And each one of those boxes can hold about 80 cassette tapes. So you can kind of do the math just looking at the picture. We have a lot. And those are like Hollywell and Curtis and Barker and a lot of folks like that. that are contained within those cassettes. And so really some neat stuff. The box on the right shows you how most of the stuff comes into an archive. I thought you guys might like to see it. Those of us that work in the archives, we recognize that dearly. We have to process that. We have to go through it, determine what's there, determine what's salvageable, and then turn around and store it properly, prepare it and store it properly so that it will last and will be around forever. So these are the types of things we deal with on a daily basis. Next slide. I'm kind of running you through a little quick, but we're making up time. These are really the issues that we face collectively as archives. All of us face this. You know, we have thousands of media files that are deteriorating as we sit here. We all do. We have tons and tons of this stuff. Very valuable stuff, very knowledge, you know, the knowledge contained within these things is amazing. We have thousands of talks, lectures, documents. They're turning to dust. They are. You know, proper handling and storage is absolutely a must. We have to put this stuff in acid-free storage, as Jolene alluded to. Papers need to be put in acid-free files and folders and boxes, because what happens is regular cardboard off-gases is what they call it, and it deteriorates that paper even faster. So the paper becomes brown and brittle. You might have noticed some of this when you come across old documents. That's why it's doing it. It's not necessarily the document as much as it's what it's stored with or how it's being stored. And so this is one of the things we deal with in archives, is we are in the process of making sure all this stuff is stored properly so that it will be here for generations to come. And digitization, to me, that's the answer. Let's get this stuff digitized. Let's get it put onto computer systems and into digital formats where we can have access to this for future generations to come. So it's very important. And then the next slide, please. How can you help? And this really is one of the most important slides in the presentation. Our history really is at a risk of being lost, and our history matters. All of our history matters, and we need to preserve it. But preservation can be costly, as Britt alluded to. You know, Science of Mind and all of us are kind of talking about a digitization center to be able to at least digitize the audio. You know, cassette tapes, we all have 1 billion cassette tapes. You know, things like that, reel-to-reels, maybe we could get some of that done. It's costly. Kathy and I did some estimates, and just to buy used audio equipment to set up a center, you can spend 15 grand, you know, just on equipment. That's not talking furniture. You know, you might want a table to set that stuff on, and that's not talking space to put it at, or employees to work on it. So, I mean, again, it's very expensive to do it, but we need to get it done. To get one tape done, if you take it somewhere, it can cost you $20, you know, just for one little tape. Well, you take that times 8,000, you know, that's a chunk of change. So again, it is costly, but you know what? It's not impossible. We know somebody who's abundant. You know, the universe is abundant, and so we're not really worried about that. We just need to call it in. The other ways you can help us is consider volunteering. Oh my gosh, we welcome help. We are so excited. If you want to come and help us do something, we'll find you a job to do. We don't mind. Even if you're not on campus, if you're able to do something offline, you know, online but off campus, talk to us, because we do have opportunities at times to do something like that. And we welcome all the help we can get. You know, consider donating your materials. Many of you are looking around in your garages or your houses, and you have stuff that really probably should be archived. You know, historical stuff, documents, magazines and things. Contact the archive of your choice that you feel like that should go to, and talk to us. You know, we may need it. We may not, but we might. As a matter of fact, we have a couple of busts that are going to be coming into the INTA archive that Dr. Stewart is so graciously is going to go pick up for us sometime this year. And we're so grateful for that, because we get that. You know, people will call us and ask about donating stuff. And so please look around. Don't let stuff just get ruined or throw it away. You know, consider having it preserved. And then finally, consider donating finances. And I know nobody likes to talk about that, but hey, we're abundant, right? So we can talk about it. Consider, putting us in your will and estate planning. All of us archives, we all welcome support. Consider, your year-end giving. Some folks are in situations where they have to do donations at the end of the year. Consider an archive. Consider helping one of the archives to be able to further what they're doing. And then some of you folks are on, monthly giving plans or whatever, or just within your heart, you just feel called. Well, answer that call. Answer the call. We all appreciate it. Our goal is not just to support and run an archive. Our goal is to preserve this stuff for the future generations, for everyone to be able to learn and experience this history. And next slide, please. If you can get it to come up. There you go. And you get an opportunity to come and experience history for yourself. As I said, INTA Archives, we have over 140 years of material. We have a lot of, we represent probably at least 5,000 New Thought teachers, ministers, practitioners within our archives. So we're just going to invite you to come over to the grand opening at 3:30 in front of Building 400 by the fountains. You'll see the chairs. If you head that way and go into the fountain area, you'll see chairs lined up or set up over there. Please come and be a part of this historic grand opening. As Dr. Stewart talked about, having all of these archives on this campus is a big deal. Spirit's up to something. And we are blessed to be here. We're blessed to be able to do this grand opening, and we're so grateful for all of you for helping to make this possible. Your love of history, your love of the archives, your love of INTA, your love of each other is all part of it. And so we are so grateful for you guys. So please come and have fun with us. 3:30. Thank you. Oh, yep, I sure will. I got to give this to Dr. Stewart.
Thank you, thank you. He made the thing of calling me boss man right there, and I didn't ask for that. But I won't have to say this again, I'll say it here. He's heard it many times. I think one of the best decisions I ever made as president of INTA was bringing this gentleman right here on board for our archives. Give JT a hand if you would, please. And all these individuals you've heard from are doing a tremendous job. Give them a hand if you would. I just didn't hire any of those. But we want to take a moment for some question and answers. If there's anything today that you would like to ask about.
What archival schedule do you use? Is it a permanent retention on all of these things, or is there a disposal schedule?
Who wants to?
I can answer that.
We'll let you answer. Are you asking that for a particular archive or for all of them?
Just in general, for these types of archival pieces, do you follow an archival schedule?
Can you say it through the
I'll say it through the microwave. She asked if there were retention schedules or if they're permanently kept. So most of the things that I keep in the Unity archives are permanent. So I decide ahead of time if we're going to accept them and then keep them as permanent. Again, when we talk about maybe formats, so if a cassette, if we digitize it, we don't always keep that original format. We may dispose of that, especially if it's due to condition or things like that. But usually archives, a lot of it does become permanent. I know you get into other organizations and they do have some that are, more have retention schedules, so they may keep them for 20 years, 30 years. But at least for our archive, the things that we are collecting do become a permanent part of the archives.
I would agree with that for INTA as well. Again, we're going to look at it on the front end and decide if it's something that we need. If we don't already have it and we need it, it's going to be considered a permanent item in the archive. And for us, even if we digitize stuff, if stuff is in good enough shape, once we've digitized like media and things like that, we may off-site store it in cold storage or someplace like that to preserve it even longer. So yeah, we keep everything forever. I think each archive uses a different cataloging system. Oh, she asked how we catalog our items, and I think each archive probably does it a little bit different. I know that, Jolene, you guys use History IT to do a lot of your stuff, right?
We have finding aids for our collections. So ours are grouped by the type of collection. And then we have finding aids for each of those. So, if we have a collection of like Myrtle Fillmore's papers, it would have a description of everything that's in the boxes, usually to like a folder level.
Yeah. And for us right now, we're in the process of redoing all of our inventory because we need to get our inventory correct. And so right now, all of our inventory's been done on spreadsheets, and that's how it's organized. But it's organized in a way that you can search it. So if you're searching for a particular item, it will pop up, and then I have an address for it to be able to locate it.
The Science of Mind archives, we previously had spreadsheets, but we've been fortunate to have a database, it's called Past Perfect, which we can set up so that the public can just go directly to the items that we have in Past Perfect through our website. You just go to scienceofmindarchives.com to resource. You have to go to the resources tab, and then it will say Past Perfect, and then you select keyword to search. And we're going to try to make that easier in the future. But that's what we have to do most of our cataloging. We also have a library cataloger that also handles all of our library books, so those go directly to our website as well.
Use the microphone there, please.
So people can come into the archives and check an item out on site to read or to see.
I'll let you answer yours.
I didn't hear, did you say check out or just look at?
Yeah, made available to
Okay, yes.
someone
So
coming in.
for my particular archive, you can come in. We're there Monday through Thursday, about 8 to 4 p.m. And you can come in and we can help you, whatever you're researching, we can pull those items. So generally, if you know what you're looking for, we can pull it. Like if you want to look at a specific collection, we can pull those boxes and you can look through them. We do have a library collection. They do not circulate anymore, but if somebody wants to look at a book, we'd pull it out and they can look through the books.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty similar for us too. We're available at the Science of Mind 9 o'clock to 5 p.m. And most items you can come see. We also do not circulate books at the moment, but that could change in the future because we have a very large library.
And since JT needed to step away, I'll say INTA is similar. You can come in, a book can be pulled. We have a table, you can stay there. In the archives, we don't allow them to go out. A little different between archive and library.
My question. When you
Yes,
finish, when you finish, I apologize.
Oh, I was going to say also, when you ask about retention, the one thing, as we were moving this and we began going through things, we found that people apparently had donated a lot of things that were, did my microphone just stop? Okay. We found several items that were totally and completely unrelated to anything New Thought. Imagine that. Yeah, we unfortunately, unlike our church lending library, one time we went in and found a copy of Sex and the Single Lady in our church library. So we didn't come up with that in INTA. But that's true story. I'm not telling a joke. But so we will remove something if it's unrelated. And that's all. Reverend
This is
Sheila.
this is the 111th Congress of INTA. For the 100th, we planted or dug a hole and put in the ground a time capsule. And everyone at the Congress brought something to put in the time capsule so it could be open like in 100 years. Now that you are no longer in Arizona where that took place, did anybody think to get the time capsule?
Okay. Reverend Sheila, I was unaware that a hole was ever dug. The time capsule, yes, does exist. The thing is, that capsule was at the Congress, which was held at Paradise Valley. But to my knowledge, a hole was never dug to bury it. That was sitting in the archives, and it is here today. and you can see it. So yes, we still have that time capsule. It exists. It just was never buried. All right. Any other questions? All right. Is everyone complete already with your questions?
I just wanted to let you know, if you spend any time in the archive, you may want to bring a sweater, because one of the things we do to preserve is to keep them at a certain temperature so that things that may be active won't get active. So just know that if it's feeling a little cool in there, it's not because, we forgot to pay the bill or something. It is intentional, and it's very helpful.
All right. Thank you. In that case, we've got about 20 minutes until we're supposed to at 3:30 is when we'll begin over at the archives. Look around at somebody and realize that as you do that, you are looking at the very faces of God in the way God chooses to show up right here, right now, today. And as we, in New Thought, I don't think we use it as much. We would say namaste, which is literally the Christ in me recognizes and honors the Christ in you.